Hey, how's it going, Wildcats? This is the Word to the Wildcat podcast, and this is episode 2 of season 3. This podcast is being brought to you by the Center for Leadership and Community Engagement. So let's get quick introductions out of the way. My name is Tommy Fernandez. My pronouns are he, him, his, or my name, and I am an ITAM major. And joining me as always, I'll let her introduce herself, is Areli.
What's up, Wildcats? My name is Areli Ruiz. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am an elementary education major here at Central. The theme for this episode is diversity and inclusion, and we got two great guests with us. We got Ramsey Fruean and Nathaniel McMillion. So thank you all for being here. We're really excited to have y'all.
Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, would you like to let the audience know a little more about yourself?
Hey, you want to go
Ramsey,
first?
Yeah, Ramsey, go ahead.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? My name is Tiu Ramsey Fruean. My pronouns are he, him, his, or my name. I'm from Lakewood, Washington. Shout out to the Wood. And I graduated from Central 2020, and I'm in my master's right now in higher education, and I moved back to the West Side, and right now I am a college and career coach.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Nathaniel McMillion. All my friends call me Nate. He, him, his pronouns. I am a senior here at Central, majoring in public relations and minoring in Africana Black Studies. I also am a student initiatives coordinator at our Diversity and Equity Center here on this campus as well. Done a couple other things as well, but we'll probably get into that as we get into this episode, more than likely.
Oh yeah, for sure. And speaking of yesterday, Nate, yesterday was MLK Day, and I saw on Instagram that y'all had a pretty good turnout for the event. How did that all go down?
No, it was actually, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little shocked by it just because with the still being a pandemic, we had petitioned to the deans to still let us try to do the Peace March. We were trying to have at least all the protocols in place with social distancing, masks, hand sanitizing stations, and things like that. And it was funny because we tried to at least combat, I was not say combat for lack of a better term, but the overcrowdedness, obviously the worry with the pandemic with pre-registration. So our pre-registration, we were only thinking like maybe 11, 15 people show up there. That's what we're thinking. A few minutes after 3:00, I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, this is the thing. I really thought we were going to be able to skate, like be able to go through this process without actually using the megaphone. I didn't think there were going to be that many people. Didn't turn out well. We had a lot of people show up, and it meant something to me because the fact that you're still wanting to do this on MLK Day in the middle, like I said, it's a pandemic. It's our first day back technically that we can have like face-to-face interaction here at Central after the 2-week quarantine. So to see everybody turn out, it was huge for me.
And that is what we love to see. And that is a perfect example of what we're trying to accomplish with this episode. We are here to talk about diversity and inclusion. And with that being said, I really want to know what Ramsey, Nate, what y'all's approaches are to how people learn about diversity and inclusion, because that right there is a great example, just having educational programs, Remembrance Day. But yeah, if y'all want to share a little bit more about y'all's approach on diversity and inclusion, we would love to hear that.
Yeah, sure. I can go first. For me and my stuff, or for diversity and inclusion, I am still a person who is still learning to this day how to advocate and how to walk through in diversity and equity and inclusion. For me, I do my best in going to workshops, doing professional development, learning from others who have the tools and who have the ability that I don't know, because I don't know everything, but that's good because everything is a learning process. So learning to go to these spaces and go into these areas of diversity and inclusion is something that I like to do.
And same thing as far as for Ramsey, still learning. With just working with the Diversity and Equity Center here on campus there, it was my first job on campus, and I didn't even realize like how much stuff I had to unlearn before I actually was able to begin learning about diversity, what that really means, what being inclusive means of everybody there. So as far as bringing people in and, having to learn about that, the biggest thing that I always look for that I had to learn for myself is, first and foremost, are they willing to listen?
Yeah.
Because as long as they're at least willing to listen, even if they don't necessarily agree, if they're willing to listen to where we can just be two human beings talking about this particular topic, then usually it tends to grow and tends to actually get better from there. So that's always something that I've been looking for, and that's what, at least I think we've been seeing more and more, especially in 2020, a lot more people at least willing to take that first step and listen there, and hopefully it just keeps progressing from there.
Say, yeah, that's so true. Both of your points you made, just to continue learning and evolve over time. Like looking back to maybe your first year here at Central, did you ever picture yourself getting involved to where you are? I know Ramsey, you did work at the CLCE, but what about yourself too, Nate?
I'll keep it a bean. Anyone that knows me knows I have the potential to be a hermit crab. I tell people all the time when I introduce myself, if you look up introvert in the dictionary, you'll find a picture of me kicking it right there. Like, so it's real funny because even my first year here, when my older brothers helped me move into my apartment up here, when I was starting as a non-trad student as a freshman. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be older than everybody that I'm probably gonna be around, and I probably won't know nobody because I've been over in Kent before I came over here. So literally, my brothers had to tell me, it's like, yo, don't be a damn hermit crab. Like, actually
Yeah.
go out from your apartment, do stuff, like talk to people, and it's wild when I look back. Literally saying yes to one BSU invitation has put me in places that I just did not see happening throughout my college experience. So to answer your question, I did not see it happening.
What about you, Ramsey?
Yeah, I'm with the same thing with Nate. I know for me, I may sometimes I come off as an extroverted person, but everybody that's my close friend knows damn well that I'm an introverted person. And to be honest, my first time coming to here at Central, I didn't know nothing about like diversity and inclusion. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was approached by someone to come to my group on the Brother to Brother Club, and we were sitting down and everyone's introducing themselves, and they're doing everyone's saying this random thing like, oh, my name is yada yada yada, my pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm like, I'm making fun of those, I'm making fun of people that like, oh yeah, my name is blah 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 blah, and my pronouns are he, and I thought that was weird. So I'm like, dang, like what is this? Like, why is that a thing? And coming to Central and coming to a place of understanding, and people telling you like, this is how it is, this is how the real world is, and coming from where Lakewood and Washington, where everyone is, we don't know about like certain terminology and certain things, or so it was a great awakening of myself in learning certain things that I wasn't supposed to say and am I supposed to say now. So it's just a continuing process of learning.
So just out of curiosity, because I know that Ramsey mentioned a little bit about how he, like his first interaction with like diversity and really thinking about diversity and inclusion. Nate, was your BSU meeting the first interaction where you're just like, wow, okay, this is a thing that we have to think about?
I wouldn't. It probably wasn't my first introduction to that. For diversity and inclusion, I would have to say that would actually be the summer before my sophomore year, when I actually started working for the Diversity and Equity Center. And this is where I have to give a huge shout out, rest in power, to Ante. They were the first coworker that I met at the Diversity and Equity Center, and just being transparent there, coming up a religious background like I did, everyone is very well aware of at least Christianity's stance as far as like LGBTQ communities and their issues and anything that happens with them. So I was one of those people that was like firm set in that type of belief, to where I always saw them as saw people in those community as the other. And Ante was my first introduction to, and my first real lesson as far as like, no. They are just as and this sounds wild to say, but I had to learn this, but no, they are just as human and just as real, and their experiences and realities are just the same, if not even more so, as yours there. And so really it was just a working relationship that I started developing with Ante, and listening to them just talk about their reality, their upbringing, everything that kind of shaped them and formed them to what they're going to, like who they are then. It was one of those things that was like my first introduction to where I was like, oh no, I actually need to begin changing how I think and how I perceive, because what I was taught isn't the reality. And I think that was like a hard pill to swallow at first, but I'm really, really happy I did. And forever owe Ante, shout out to him, rest in power. Because they shout out to them, excuse me, but I really appreciated how they did that.
What about you, Tommy? And that was beautiful, by the way. Nate, love Ante. Great person.
Yeah, Nate, and I also come back from that background too, heavily in Christianity, and even like going back home now and just trying to tell like me like sometimes like my grandparents about what I learned and what I think. Sometimes they're not really open to the conversation. I just think sometimes it's in that just different of generation and just different views. But definitely for me, just coming to Central and just seeing all these different groups of people clustered together. You know, Central, we can say it's a very diverse school, but outside of the university, that's different. Like City of Ellensburg, very different level of diversity. But yeah, for me, it was just honestly just joining the CLCE, which was actually a very opportunity for me, because my freshman year I didn't really do anything honestly to get involved. Like I was like, okay, I was in a fraternity and I had to do some volunteering, and I ended up just meeting some people, and they're like, hey, come get involved. We need more workers, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then I joined the CLCE, got to meet some interesting people, hear some interesting ideas. And I was like, wow, this is just opened my eyes.
Okay, so I know we're talking about all this and kind of like where the conversation like started for all of us. Like, I'm just kind of curious what y'all are thinking in terms of how the conversation is going in the future. Because I know that Tommy and I discussed this, and we've told y'all a little bit too in our prior meetings. But like the students of today, they're getting educated in ways I could have never dreamed of in terms of diversity and inclusion, being informed and genuinely being knowledgeable about different things, such as like, what did Christopher Columbus actually do? Did he really do what he was said to do? Or blah, 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 So that's a conversation that I would like to have with y'all. What do y'all think about when the conversation starts or when it should start?
For me, I just know, especially when it comes like to that Christopher Columbus conversation, like I tell my friends all the time, I'm waiting for the day that my child comes home and like, yo, Dad, we learned about Christopher Columbus. Because I know I'm having a parent-teacher conference probably by that Friday. All right, but to answer that, I think you should start it when they are children. I mean, I am incredibly shocked at the amount of stuff, and we talk about it in conversations where you and I have had, in conversations within offices and stuff like that. Once you begin to just decolonize history and start pulling back at that as far as what the realities of it were, you're like, yo, why were we celebrating these people? And not only why are we celebrating these people, why are we even still talking about these people? But I feel like you got to start that early, and it's not something that I think anybody needs to be afraid of when it comes to just being honest about diversity, about our history, and about things like that. That's, if we're being honest, I thought that was what was supposed to be the beautiful thing about America, is the diversity, is how we are a place for everybody. I mean, if that's not the case, I need someone to tell me something. But if that's where we're going to be, then no, we should start those talks early with our kids. And I hope, when you talk about looking to the future, I just hope it keeps progressing. I'm not necessarily worried about at the rate it is, as long as it's continual progression forward and we just don't start regressing, then I'm with it.
Yeah, and then going off of that, I think for me, for the future, it starts with ourselves. I know for me and myself, I'm saying for me, um, it took me a long time to actually like actually practice it and actually do it, because like I said before, I was making jokes. clowning everybody of like pronouns and things like that. And it took me maybe, I went to Central for 3 years. And the last year, my third, maybe the second year, like I actually practiced it myself because I was mentioned to go to, I wanted to go to a lot of clubs, and one major club that helped me elevate and more was Mecha. So shout out to Mecha always. And learning that, I even made fun of jokes. Early knows that I always do that. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh no, we use I statements here, or you say y'all, or don't yuck my yum. And I'm like, it's funny because like I knew the things, like I know of it, I just didn't comprehend and actually do it. So like I knew the stuff, like I could say it like making fun of jokes, but I can't practice it. So I think it starts for the future. It starts with yourself. As me and talking for my individuality, like if I learn how to be more of an advocate, learn how to use my tools and learn how to be more involved in diversity and inclusion, especially like for an example of back home, like in the future, like what Nate said, teaching them young, because if I know it as an individual for me, then I can teach other people from who I have like children or from back home. But it is a hard process and it is hard to learn because even I know for myself that I have to deal with it every day. And yeah, so I think for like to answer that question is you have to, for future, maybe start with yourself, and then you can start off doing for the younger generation, start off, because even today I have issues and conflicts or telling my siblings or my people from back home that the N-word is not our word. It is not, we can't keep that word. Yeah, we're around people who say that all the time, but I choose to not to say it. So, I had to learn that the hard way of not saying it all the time, because it is something that learning that it is not my word, and it's not like it used to be a vocabulary word in mine, but progressing and learning that this is not our word, and it has such a strong background to it, is something that I believe now, and continue to growing, and hopefully for the future, like Nate said, we continue to progress little by little, and one day.
I gotta say though, Rev, like I don't think people take, like, I know you make the joke about pronouns there, but I was the same dude with you. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I showed up at orientation and I was literally the dude that was sitting in the back because, again, not traditional student, so I'm like older than most of the people that's in the room. Student gets on stage, she's like, "Oh, my name is such and such, my pronouns are she, her, hers," and literally the first thing in my head was like, "Duh." Like it was like, why would you even need to, like, it wasn't computing for me. And I kid you not, I still, like you said, I can't tell you how many times I find myself saying, "Hey, you guys, I need you to," there are no guys in the room, and I just said that. Okay, bet. Like it's one of those things, like you have to unlearn it, and it's wild. So like you're saying, and I think that we agree on, like, start it young. If you start it young, then you don't have to be unlearning everything once you get to, like, 20s and 30s. They're talking about, "Oh wait, so I can't do this." All right, but I've been doing it for the last like 15, 20 years. Okay, guess not.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Those were both very great answers. Appreciate that. And one thing can be said that we all come from, different backgrounds, different communities, and sometimes that can, shape how we, view everything. So, like, what was like one of the major shocks you had when you first came to Central? And Rams, I know you shared a little bit about it already, but you mind going more in depth?
Yeah, I could tell the story. When I went with brother to Atlanta, I've never been to the East Coast. I've never been over there. So, I'm talking to a friend who's, he knows more than me, and I'm telling him like, "Hey, what's up?" And then he's letting me know like, "Hey, I've told you this many times that they don't take it. They're not here from the West Side. We don't say that word here. So you need to learn how to, unlearn that word." And I'm like, "Nah, man, I come from Lakewood. They should know." And just something that surprised me when I talked to some guys from Atlanta, and they're like, "Yeah, my name's Ramsey. I'm Samoan," and they're like, "What is that?" Like, I'm like, oh, so you don't know what a Samoan is, and on the West Coast, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could tell you, I do the stereotype of what everyone knows, and I don't have those tools yet, and I'm like, yeah, Hawaii pineapples, and like, okay, yeah, I have like an idea of what a Samoan is, so like seeing those, and that literally shocked me. And then another thing that shocked me is meeting someone who already is more diversity woke, and then all of that. He was my roommate, and he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I know that, I said it, I used to say that word all the time, but I choose not to. And talking to him and talking and being around people who don't say the word and don't say like other things, or using the word y'all instead of guys, is something that like I'm like, oh dang, like that's a thing. And being around those individuals, or seeing individuals who actually know how to do it, and how like to go, like even Nate, I talk with Nate all the time, and I'm like, oh damn, I'm like, oh, they know what they're doing, he knows what he's doing, so maybe I should like practice it myself. So I think that's what really shocked me, is people not knowing that there are things, and people who look like me who are awoke, and I want to get to that level too.
For me, it was really, yeah, it was going from that summer, working as far as orientations, working with Ante. Uh, they and I would table throughout the summer, and I learned it as far as it really, really hit its importance to me. The experience that kind of like solidified it with me was our first Wildcat Welcome Weekend, my first year at the Diversity and Equity Center. Um, it was just one of those things. That was the very first time where I saw just how much representation matters. And for me, again, like we talked about earlier, introvert, I'm always a lot of times wrapped up in my own world there. But that was a moment where I was like, oh no, it means something to someone, like especially to a freshman who has never been on a college campus before, to sit in these chairs and look up on the stage and see someone that looks like them. That never really matters to me before, but really after that summer and getting into that weekend, it was like, oh no, this is a real thing. And then it just grew from there for me, because I didn't want to be a hypocrite with the work there. I didn't want to be the guy that was like, oh yeah, I work at the Diversity and Equity Center, and then you see me around campus and you're like, bruh, like,
Yeah.
so I wanted to be serious about it. So it was really just and like Ramsey said, it wasn't easy, and I'm still going through the process as far as like unlearning some stuff. But it was just a lot of listening. It was a lot of listening, and then figuring out the ways that you could actually show up and be supportive there. The ways that you could be someone's ally and different things like that. Once you begin to figure those out, then it's really just kind of putting some practice to it, and preferably you get better at it as the time goes on. I don't think no one ever is perfect at it, but you just keep getting better. So
Yeah. How was your experience, Aurelia? You coming from Sunnyside and all and everything, different from us from the West Side for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm the only one from the east side, huh? Oh dang.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've told all of y'all, like Sunnyside is fairly just a lot of Latinx folk, and it's very beautiful just seeing all the men, seeing all the Spanish speaking folk, and it's a very beautiful community. But we do have our flaws. When I first came here, it was completely, I don't even know how to explain it. It was definitely a culture shock. 100%. I didn't even know where my place was. To be completely honest, I didn't really find my place as like a Latinx woman until like I entered Mecha, just because I thought I was supposed to fulfill like a specific stereotype. Like I remember there was this instance my freshman year, y'all remember the dorms, the community bathrooms, great times. We love those. But I remember playing Selena, and God bless her soul, this white girl comes up to me, and the most stereotypical, she was just like, oh my God, I love her. And then she was just going on about like stereotypes about like the Latinx community and stuff like that, kind of ish. And I was just like, okay, cool. I want this conversation to be over. That's when I kind of knew that it was like a little bit different for me. But in terms of like diversity and inclusion, like it's a little bit more of a learning curve. You're constantly being reintroduced to having to think of, I'm this person, this is this person, but we can all kind of like live together, work together. And I think that honestly, just us, all four of us right now, coming together and sharing our knowledge and wisdom and just stories says a lot, because never in a million years would I have thought I would have been doing a podcast with all of y'all, just because one, I didn't know y'all back then. But two, like I've never met people like y'all, you know, like I've never met a Polynesian until I met Ramsey, or I never like really got to interact with someone that's African American or Black until like I was like introduced to like BSU, and like Nate and I have gotten to talk a lot, and then like Tommy's multiracial and stuff, which is phenomenal. And I just am very fortunate to have been able to go on the path that I've been able to go on, just because it's like I wouldn't have been able to experience this in Sunny. The diversity and inclusion level is not the greatest, but I'm hoping that it can work itself out, and I'll help it work out. But right now, we there. We're on the east
There we
side.
go.
So
There we go.
what about you, Tommy? Go ahead, tell us your story.
My story?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, for me, like I said earlier, like the conversation did start later for me. I was lucky enough to never really in my life be judged for like, you know, my skin tone or anything like that until I actually did come to Ellensburg. And this happened when my friend asked me if she wanted to go to get a drink, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm down, let's do it. And we went to this place in Kittitas that I'd never been to, and I was just sitting there. I just noticed that these people were just staring at me. Like I didn't understand why. I was like, I said hello, I said if you're good, and then every time I look up, they're just like they just had like this hate and this look in their eye, like they were just judging me as soon as I walked in. They didn't even ask me how I am, what I do, who I am as a person. I was just like, wow, like that was just a big shock for me. That was like, I really need to take this stuff seriously, because I know like I'm not perfect. You know, I probably said things that I've regretted before. And it was like, I really need to just educate myself so I can just make sure that I never ever like want to offend someone, or someone takes something that I say out of my mouth or something that I don't mean genuine. And so that's when I was just trying to realize that, man, I really need to take understanding other people and what their needs are and what their voice is, instead of just having my, you know, my stuff that I grew up understanding, but not really, you know, truly did understand. Yeah.
And I think it's just tough in general, like especially like being from like a predominantly white institution for all of us. Like, oh, actually, I'm going to speak for myself. Just in general, when it comes to like a predominantly white institution and coming from a Latinx background, it's very tough trying to find your place. And like that's what like diversity and inclusion, I feel like that is what we're trying to establish. Like you have a place, you own your space, take back your power within your space. I don't know. To me, it's just your space that people have just kind of excluded you and make you feel like you're not supposed to be here. But like as great as Central is, I have experienced like certain issues and certain situations that I would rather have just stayed like, you know what, I'm comfortable being in Sunnyside. I'm comfortable just doing whatever I had to do. But those instances where I wasn't feeling so included, when people weren't looking at me as another asset, but a deficit because I was different, it really hurt. But at the same time, I wouldn't have grown to be who I am today. And like Nate mentioned earlier, being a hermit, and I'm pretty sure we can all agree we're all pretty much introverts, that it is difficult, but the learning is what is astounding, and what truly matters when it comes to like being diverse, being like inclusive and whatnot. So that's my 2 cents with that.
Oh, well, just listen to you. Go ahead. It kind of just reminded me of I think once you kind of begin in this, begin studying about diversity inclusion. One thing that I know I found like a lot of strength in was once you begin like unpeeling identities and everything that begins like attached with that. Because one thing that I'm appreciative of Central and the DEC, with the work that we've done for them has kind of helped me really find my voice again, just because like Tommy had talked about dealing with stereotypes. I remember I was the person, just being just a 6 foot black dude walking around. I would always try to make myself be as like unthreatening as possible. Like wherever I went, I would I would talk in like a lighter voice. Like anytime I was on the phone, like I would always try to be like, okay, you should not be worried about me. And it really wasn't until I got out here where it's just like, oh, I'm really trying to conform to what like make everyone else comfortable instead of just owning who and what I am. Yo, bump this. If you scared, that's you. Like so, it was really having to learn that. And I really I appreciate like it was really diversity work that actually helped me find my voice in that to where it's just and I think that's the benefit of starting to like actually begin working in diversity and inclusion there. Once you begin to find your identities and all the beauties within that there, then you develop a pride around it there, and you kind of it's a boldness around it, and I'm appreciative of that for real.
Nate, I can't even imagine you talking in a lighter voice. Please never do that again.
I'm
Oh
telling
yeah.
you, I did it all the time. I was on customer service calls, like, yeah, this is Nathaniel. How can I help you? I'm so happy. It just does not have to happen anymore.
You said that's not who I am. Let's not do that.
Yeah, and I hate hearing it too, and it's like, oh yeah, that's your professional voice. It's like, you don't want me to talk about how I'm talking. Let me talk. You know what I mean?
You do. You just switch it up real quick once the phone is like, yeah, how you doing?
Yeah. Oh, code switching. 100%.
And I'm pretty sure all of us here can attest to our code switching and what we've been able to get by with just by trying to be a certain way. And I just kind of really quick, I want to touch on that just because it was brought up. Like, how do y'all go with code switching? Because I'm trying to whatever my code switching and try to be my authentic self, but it's really hard to go back to being that individual that I was or I'm supposed to be when this other person is to like prime. This is who I'm meant to be if I'm supposed to be a professional or I'm supposed to be this, you know? So I want to know what y'all's thoughts are on that.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I code switch so much because I'm always 100% real. I like my slang, my talk. I can't change it. There's nothing I can really do. And now I grow my long hair and my beard and everything. So everyone, when they look at me, I can't really do nothing about it. So, I mean, code switching is hard. I think the only thing for me when I need a code switch is I need to learn how to relax on like my vocabulary because I know in professional settings, you shouldn't cuss so much or like, F word. That's more in my code switching. I changed because I like, being a Pacific Islander myself, we are very expressive and we are very loud. And, me, once I get out of that shell and I feel comfortable, Aurelian and Tommy know I'm probably like the loudest and most craziest one out there trying to cause scenes and stuff. But when we're in professional settings, that's the one thing that I had to learn. Like, hey, this is the office. You can't be wearing shorts and a t-shirt, or you can't be, you have to wear actually jeans and things like that. So I think like my wardrobe had to be more changed just to fit like certain things and not just to change like my style because I still wear my like slippers from here and there or whatever anybody wants to call. Anybody wants the slippers, I think, or I forgot what the other one is, but I say slippers.
As long as it ain't Crocs.
Yeah, it's whatever. But for me, code switching is like an essential part that I want to just to relax on. But like being my authentic self has always been not really of an issue. It's just toning it down is what I need to learn more. I'm really like, yeah, you're a little bit too much. So relax on the profanity or anything like that.
Oh, for me, it's just been I've been blessed to where working at the diversity office now here on campus, I don't have to do it as much, but I consider myself like one of the best at it when I was working like jobs before coming up here because I always just like deemed it necessary to where you know I had to be presentable. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to make sure I had to make you feel comfortable. I had to make the customer feel comfortable. there. Even if the customer or you is extremely upsetting me or just saying a bunch of just wild stuff, no, I'm still going to make you feel comfortable. And no, for what really did it for me was we went to, I had the chance to go to the Oregon Students of Color Conference. And I believe really you actually were on that trip. There, yeah, Ramsey was with us too. Yay. And one of the, I forget the word for it, but essentially one of the sessions, the keynote speaker for that had gotten to, code switching is such a dangerous thing because you're literally trying to create a alternate personality in your own head for other people's appeasement.
Yeah.
And like when he said that, it was a slap across the face because I was like, okay. Well, it's like, well, my bad. And like I've tried to, try to be like Ramsey and just trying to get better at just being my more authentic self. I'll be honest, it still is. I'm still hesitant in like certain rooms and certain environments. Like I'm our student trustee, so now even like board meetings, I'm just like, do I really just let it off or do I just? Well, I think we should, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's finding like the pockets of like I can like just like be my authentic self, and when they come, I'm appreciative, So
Yeah. And I'll say at the CLCE, like we're pretty lucky because when I first got there, I was of course like intimidated by, Andre and all the higher ups and stuff like that, just because I was like, do I need to act more professional? Do I need to do this? But then like, as I realized, especially when I talk to Amber, stuff like that, it's just, they appreciate too if you're just being your real self. Like they'll be real with you too, and I think for me personally is like, Ramsey, we played, 2K before, it gets pretty wild, but, just cutting down on using explicit language and, just showing that I am professional in that way, not like I just woke up and just came to work. I'm here to work, basically. I'm here to do business.
Well, yeah, just adding on to that, like I think I've learned from my mentors from my community colleges and some other people because I've been to a Students of Color conference in Yakima and meeting individuals like myself who, one thing I've learned that you have to stay true to yourself because if they don't like you when, if you're trying to code switch and then they don't like you for being your realness, then, they don't deserve your attention. So, I've always tried to be as much as real as possible. And I really knows that firsthand. If you don't like me right now, that I'm going to be the same I'm going to be the same today, tomorrow, or whatever. I mean, I'm going to talk the way I have to talk. Like I said, I am growing as like an individual of like certain vocabulary and certain tools, but like being my own authentic self and not letting go of like being like, oh yeah, I have to talk proper. Yeah, I mean, I can for the certain parts in certain areas, but I'm going to keep it 100 all the way, And if they don't like it, hey, that's their loss.
No, what's crazy though, here's how I knew I was too good at code switching. I had 2 job interviews before I came to school where they were on the phone interviews, and I would show up and they'd be like, wait, you're Nathaniel? And I'm like, oh, okay. That's okay, let's see what happens here. Yeah, that was me on the phone. Hi, how are you? So that's what I knew. I was like, yeah, maybe I am just being a different person. I don't know, possibly.
Wow. Dang.
So now that we've talked a little bit about like code switching and how like people have interpreted our different varieties of ourselves, I guess you could say not our most authentic self, but just different versions of ourselves. How do y'all kind of like think of yourself in terms of like power, like versus privilege? Like what kind of like identities do you think you hold? I'm really challenging y'all right now. I'm asking y'all to think about like getting deep here. Power versus privilege that y'all hold, whether it be outside in the community, whether it be back home, whether it be at Central. Like I kind of want to know how if y'all are comfortable answering like where you think your power and privilege kind of lies.
Yeah, I could go first because I was kind of talking about it. I mean, I wasn't thinking about it, but I was in a meeting today and we were talking about blackness and white fragility, but I think for me and my my identities, I know for sure that the privilege and the power that I have is first and always knowing that I am a male. So most of the stuff that is given to me is mostly because I am a male, and understanding it even from like even actually going to COCE when I was trying to get hired. I was told from Andre that they're looking for a male of color and they needed like a new program. I was like, check, 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 you know. So understanding that as a male and even learning from like my siblings, my younger sisters, that some things that being a male I already get for free. Like I'm able to go outside and stay out late, but my sisters are not allowed to go past this time. And and I never really thought of it as like an issue because I'm like, okay, whatever, that's them, and I'm more of an adult. But understanding that just because I'm a guy and just because I am a male, there's certain things that I already am entitled to, like like the glass ceiling and learning that I could get promoted faster than women, and not because that I'm smarter than a girl or I'm smarter than this other individual, mostly because I'm male or I fill this certain criteria of a box. And that's one thing that I've always tried to not like take that as accountable, is that just because I am a male and just because there's certain things in education that they don't see males, they don't see people, especially males of color, is something that I use to my advantage, but also learning and understanding that is a privilege and a power of mine. And then also um, me being of education wise, I mean, I don't think of it as privilege because I've learned that privilege is more of already given to you, and I worked for my education, so I understand that having that power of getting my degree and also working on this master's, that I have the power to change my surroundings and the things around me because I chose that for myself. But learning that I have a power, and then um, also being Pacific Islander, or a male. I mean, I not really have too much privilege or power being, a Pacific Islander, but understanding that I can get away with some things because I am a male and Pacific, a guy of color. Especially in my culture, there's things that I've tried to do to this day that is different than what most guys or like fathers or uncles see. I've always tried to challenge that quota. Even with my partner, I go and they and I'm not familiar, and I'm gonna say that because this is my I statement. I'm not really familiar with the Latin culture, but most of the time I see is feed the women. They do the house chores. They feed the males. So it's a surprise when they see me and I'm like, oh, I'm cleaning or I'm doing this. I've experienced it a lot of times now being with my partner. They're like, oh, wait, you clean or you do this, and I'm like, hey, yeah, you should be cleaning. You should be doing my culture. We do that, and I'm like, understanding that I have that privilege of, I could be like everybody, all the other guys. And I'm like, yeah, my partner you just give me food and I'll just sit here, I'm the breadwinner basically, but no, women are strong and they are more capable than us. And I hope to see them one day, being on the top, because there's a lot of female out there who deserve more opportunities than us, some underdeserved males on the top. So that, that's just to answer that question, understanding my privilege and of more of being a male in our culture and society today.
It's interesting because it's like that, and checking like our own power and privilege. It's the same for me, at least for Ramsey. It's like as far as being a man, and especially when you look at, I know already you said like get deep, and so like when we talk about the fact that both of us, like Ramsey, like cisgendered heterosexual men, it's a lot of things that we just get like just benefit of the doubt of just off the rip, just being that, you know. And for me, it was interesting. Last year I had the opportunity to be Black Student Union's president, but on our board it was me and one other man, and we had a board of about, I think it was like 8 or 9, and the rest were women there. So every single one of our board meetings, I'm literally clocking in my head like I can't really put my foot down Like, and not to be like disrespectful, but I can't because like one, I'm a man. I know how that's going to come off too. I'm a non-trad student, older than a lot of people here, so that's going to come off away. All right, and so hold on. Oh, and then the title of leadership there, me being the president. So it's just like, as far as when you like think of like where you recognizing where your power is at, where your privilege is at, it's like, okay, I can't just keep asserting, hey y'all, we need to do this, we're doing this. And so it's just trying to be cognizant of that. In day-to-day aspects, it's really is one of those things, just like Ramsey said, me being a man, a lot of times I just get the benefit of the doubt, especially within African American Black community. I've seen it too many times to where our men will get the benefit of the doubt, but our sisters, for whatever reason, will have to explain themselves or defend themselves. And I think that's just one of the things to where that is a privilege that I have as a man. I know a lot of times, and I see it way too often on Twitter. I'll just be honest with you, just too many times I see Black men talking about like, yes, we are oppressed, and I agree with you that we are oppressed as Black men, but that does not mean that we ever should turn around and continue to oppress somebody else, and especially if that someone else happens to be our Black women. So one thing that I've tried to do is with everything, especially from BSU, and just continuing it in a personal life, to where I know where I have my privilege as a Black man, and any point in time I have a Black woman next to me, I tried to make it to where, okay, at least hear her opinion, hear her voice, let her at least have a moment there. Because like we said, me being a man, y'all will listen to me. You would just, for whatever reason, I get to command respect just off of the strength of manhood for some reason. But like, for real, I agree with Ramsey. 9 times out of 10, our best ideas come from the mind of women. I don't understand why we aren't listening to them more. I'm gonna keep it a being with you. Quote Pac, we all came from a woman, got a name from a woman, game from a woman. It's like, I don't know who's not catching it. But you try to recognize that, and you try to just empower those voices that are less heard, even if you are, like we were talking about, we are men and women of color. But even as a man of color, if I know there's a woman of color next to me who has the opportunity and is not being heard, that's my responsibility to make sure that she is heard.
So really quick, now that we've talked a little bit of power, privilege, and where everything stands, I really want to thank y'all for just opening up really quick with all of us and like expressing how y'all feel. And shout out to y'all, because y'all, compared to some of the other people, not trying to put nobody else down, like I'm really excited to see that we have men in higher ed trying to like promote the more empowering and inclusive environment for not only like women of color, just like some of the other, we all know that there's like a lot more like LGBTQ plus community. We also got the first gen students, non-trad students. We also got the folks with special needs. We got a whole list of stuff. So just really quick for the listeners, identity and diversity and inclusion does not only encompass race and ethnicity. It talks about a multitude of different parts of who you are, and really encourage yourself to like go ahead and explore those to be your most authentic self. Those are just my opinion. But yeah, so moving forward, I really want to know y'all's thoughts, seeing as Central is the way it is, given all the tools that we have now acquired from being a part of this higher ed institution. I want to know y'all's thoughts on like how we can move forward, or if you have any advice for Wildcats in the future who genuinely want to make more of an effort to be more diverse, more inclusive as well.
Yeah, I think for me, going based off of myself is like the same story as what Nate said, and for me is just to go out there and join a couple clubs, or find yourself and figure out what your likes and dislikes, and you'll find the groups, and it'll help. There's certain groups will help you. I mean, especially the DEC. DEC is a really great place. I know my partner was always there, so I had to go, and I learned like a lot of great stories and listening to them and stuff. So and then also, I know for sure Central does give out a lot of workshops, and a lot of there's a lot of opportunities out there. I know for one is the Students of Color Conference is a great thing, so y'all could learn and get out there and be there, especially if you're a Wildcat. Also just joining clubs, because a lot of clubs there will be people who who are there and they know their stuff. So just finding the resources around you and going there, and don't be too shy. I know for sure for me, I didn't want to be out. I always wanted to stay at home. So just going out there and letting yourself be vulnerable. That's one thing that I've had to learn the hard way, is being vulnerable and being uncomfortable even in spaces that are not yours. I know for sure I went to a lot of different communities, of LGBT communities, of race-based communities, of male and sensitive communities. There's also sisters too. I know we were going out for brothers, but sisters is another great places for all those women out there that are looking for a place of just somewhere to be, feel free for where you're at. So that's just me, finding your home and finding your place will definitely help you be okay with diversity. And then also getting out of once you find your comfort zone, find somewhere where you don't feel uncomfortable, because that's the best place you will learn, is when you are uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would say for any future Wildcats coming, first and foremost, know there's a spot for you here at Central. I understand that some people may have to look a little harder to find it there, but I promise you it is here. And once you find it, it'll be worth it. It will mean so much. Also, if I could say anything as far as future advice, it's always first and foremost listen, and be willing to listen. And on top of that, I don't care what people say. There's nothing wrong with being wrong sometimes. It's okay to be hey, I was taught this, but that's actually not the case. Like we talked about earlier on here with the whole Christopher Columbus Day. If finding out that Christopher Columbus probably shouldn't be celebrated shakes your whole world, we got some stuff to do. We have a lot of conversations to have there. But really just be willing to listen, be willing to engage, like Ramsey said. Don't just put your foot out there. You don't have to jump all the way off of the deep end there, but dip your toe. Show up at an event there. Show up at maybe 1 or 2 meetings, or maybe at a tabling event or something like that. But you'll find your spot here on this campus there. And to the future of Central, I just hope we keep progressing and staying true to our mission statement as far as being a diverse and inclusive university. It's just one of those things. I know I'm not planning on being around here too much longer, but with that being this case, I would love for it, to come down the road here some years, or even eventually send a son or a daughter here and be like, oh no, they got it right. They're staying true to what they are. So I'm prayerful, fingers crossed, and hopefully we get there.
Yeah, that's so true. And they also say to truly learn something, you should also teach it. And I just think for Wildcats, take the things that you learn from this institution, from this university, and share your knowledge. Let your voice be heard. Share with your family members. Share with friends back home. Don't let the stuff you take here, don't let it just end here. Keep it going. Once again, thank you to Nate and Ramsey for joining us today. We really appreciate the conversation that we were able to have with both of you gentlemen. And also thank you, Wildcat Today, for joining us. If you enjoyed today's episode and you want to hear more, you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts at Words of the Wildcat.
And if you're interested in any other amazing programs that the CLCE has to offer, make sure to check out our website at cwu.presence.io and follow our social media page.
Also, we will be having a quick assessment of this episode, and which will be on the CLC website that Areli mentioned. So make sure to fill that out, and you can receive some WOA credit. And once again, thank you for joining us. My name is Tommy.
And I'm Areli, and this has been Words to the Wildcat.